I guess maybe I'll get these in order. I think this is the fourth tape. And I'm going to, this is my dad, Edward the Eighth. This is the double they used to marry Wallace Simpson. This is my Uncle George, the illegal monarch that stole the crown from his brother, kidnapped me, helped kidnap me, his niece, the heir, Victoria II. And this is Roosevelt. This is in 39, the year I was born. I was kidnapped in 41. And this is my son, Mark, heir after me, Scott, and that's an old photo. And here are the illegals. They named him Prince George after the uncle that helped kidnap me. They're spending my money. It's fraud. It's traitors. There's so many laws that they have broken. They come a long way since 82. That was right after I was filled full of antifreeze, April the 1st of 80. Nobody, they don't have to answer to anybody. And here's John Kennedy. Warren House is where I lived, working for the DA, and they're clues to my identity. Simpson, I work for Simpson, Fred Simpson, the DA, and Warren House is like Warren Commission, and of course, Joe Kennedy was ambassador 36 to 46 and helped my uncle and Roosevelt. He was appointed by Roosevelt. The Rockefellers and Rothschilds in my kidnapping, taking down the British government and installing Elizabeth and her father. Now then, back to what I was going to say. They've used the mental health system as a murder weapon, really. So I'm back. I've gotten off the bus. No, excuse me, I did that. I came back. My ex-husband then had threatened me. And I'm simply trying to get a divorce decree, just to have a few bucks on me to try to find a job. And so I've left D.C. in October, and I'm skipping what was done to me. The book and the letter from the FBI and the antifreeze tox report that I carried on me all the time were stolen, and I was taken out in the forest and dumped. All right, and I'm taken to the emergency room, and instead of helping me, this is in Thomaston, Georgia. I had left Martinez, Georgia, and that's where that's another story that maybe will be told, I hope. And then I was taken out into the forest, and all that happened, and then taken to the hospital and turned right back out on the street in a little town of Thomaston, Georgia. And it was night. It was cold, and I'm begging for a ride again where I could have gotten killed. I got an 18-wheeler to take me into Atlanta, and I still don't know where, if my apartment was there. I don't know where my ex-husband has my sons. And when I had tried to call where Mark worked, the Epps owned all kinds of Air Force, and his son had been gotten in. This is in police reports. The Treasury Department chased Epps' son. This is the same time my son worked at the gas station in this prior tape, and the guy got killed, Roger Thackett, that managed it. And just before the police got there, and they caught the guy right in the act, almost, that shot him. But anyway, my son ended up, after that happened, going to work for Epps because they were supposed to be kind of friends, and I'm getting away from the point. They actually, the Epps' son was bringing in drugs and a Learjet, and a Treasury, I guess that's who it was, because he showed it on TV, was chasing it. And so I'm assuming because the FBI were out there at Epps Air Service, and my son has just gone to work there, and this has just happened. So they compromise the Epps and get them to help keeping my son away from me. So I didn't know if my son still worked there. I couldn't get in touch with him. I thought they had moved my apartment. So what happened when I got there? That night, I was put out on the street of Atlanta again, and I'm not going to tell that either. It's been hell. I'm walking the next day up and down the side of the road trying to get to somewhere, and I got to Cobb County, Cumberland Mall, cops. I called a lady I used to know and work with, actually hired her, and it was her husband, I thought. Of course, it had been some time since I had spoken with her. And I asked him, and I'm at Cobb County Police Department in Cumberland Mall. And I call, and her husband answers the phone. And he says, well, she's not here, but I'm sure, well, I knew him. It'd be all right. We'll come and pick you up and bring you out here. Well, a couple of minutes later, I'm in the police and have told them my situation, which they know. There was never, the Cobb County knew all of this mess. And as far as I know, they didn't do a thing to help me, rather to hurt me. So the phone call came back there at the police department. Of what I assume is they called the people I had called and told them I couldn't come out there. They blocked me. I understand that's happened a lot. It actually kept me from having a place to stay and on the street. So he called me, and suddenly I can't come out there. Elizabeth Campbell was, before she married, she was actually from Huntsville and had worked for one of the TV stations, and I hired her in Atlanta to work in the dermatology group that I work for. So this is, let me fast forward, that was back in about 77, and this is 82, the winter of 82. So finally they get in touch with my son, and Mark comes driving. He's not even driving his car. John's driving his car. And back at Warren House, when this woman, Dempsey, that I grew up being told was my mother, and had me locked up and all that, they had illegally taken my cars. Two. I had one at one time and one at another, and all she did was, it was like she run the police department in Huntsville. They took my cars illegally, where I'm on foot back then. Well, now this is Atlanta, and it's November, and I've walked, and I've left out what all was done to me, but everything's stolen, left in the forest, and taken to the emergency room in Thomaston, then put out again on the side of the road. And then I was put out in Atlanta the next day. This is when that happens at the police department. So my ex-husband's driving the car, and my son's car, and I remember my son Mark paid for a night or two, and they took me out to, it was kind of like, and I don't want anyone to ever, that's the problem with this, if you don't hear the whole story, my sons were battered, they lived a hell of a life, if the truth's ever told about this. So John had control of them, and they'd never been told the truth about any of the mess, really, other than I'd done the book, and that was made to look like I was causing all these things to happen. And I didn't find out till 83 about my real name, and you certainly can't go and say, hey, I'm the Queen of England, I've been kidnapped. You know what they'll do with it? With the background check someone would do on me, they've done a hell of a job with me, and it's all a lie. You wouldn't see any of the truth in it. So my son puts me up for 2 nights, and suddenly, well, during that time, it was a cheap motel out in Marietta, but it put me close enough that I could walk to a long way, but I walked to the police department, and I think the sheriff's department. But anyway, I tried to get the divorce decree served so that I'd have just a little bit of money, and instead I walked back up there, and I get a call from my ex-husband, and I guess they had contacted him. And instead of the police helping me, this is a legal divorce and everything. The papers were never served. In fact, what happened was that a knock came at my door, and I was locked up. And John had, like he had said in Atlanta when I was over there the winter before, and he came to the Barclay and told me he'd do what Lionel Dempsey did to me, have me locked up using the mental health. The Cobb County Police, I just been to their office down there trying to get the divorce decree. It served to get some money, my alimony. Instead, they locked me up. And it shocked me. I thought, well, I'm dead now. They're going to take me out to Lawrenceville, Milledgeville. I'll never see the light of day. You talk about terrorism. And I asked them when I got in the car, I said, who signed the papers? And there was a male driving and a female cop, and she turned around and showed it to me, and she says, well, I do know that they told them that it had to be somebody related to you. So John signed it, an ex-husband, and he had my son sign it. And I remember, my sons never knew the truth. They would terrorize themselves. And so I'm locked up. And when I get out, I'm on the streets of Atlanta 30 days later, freezing, and going from a homeless shelter to the next one with shoes that have straps. And told I had to find a job or waiting out in the cold. It was horrible. So I had met a girl at one of the shelters, and her boyfriend, I had $1 on me somehow I had, and I paid him $1.25 or something for them to take me back out. And just for the heck of it, I didn't know my ex-husband had married immediately after April Fool Day of '80, after moving my apartment. So it was all planned. He married a woman that lived at Laurelwood, where my apartment was, where they allowed him to move my stuff, change the lease to his name, and use my deposit. And I no longer had an apartment. When I got back from trying to get to his sister's, where I thought I might get a job out there. So it was all planned. He had been married all this time. I didn't know it. So I go back, get them to go back, this girl and boy, in his car, and I paid him $1.25, I think it was, every penny I had, to go back out to where my apartment had been, at Laurelwood, where John, an ex-husband, had moved my stuff, and it had been in his name when I got back from Texas. All illegal. Every bit of it has been illegal. Nobody will touch it. So I go up and knock at the door, and they're sitting there waiting, and I come out, and the next door neighbor gives me the evil eye. She comes out. I get back in the car. I try to ask her who lives there, and she didn't say anything. So the next thing I know is just a minute later, my ex-husband rolls up. Now, where was he sitting? He got there so fast. And what he said to those two people, threatening them and calling me names, and that he was going to have me locked up in the mental ward again if I didn't leave. And he spit out so many lies and threatened to call the police that I left. And so that's where I was on the street at the moment, and it goes on from there.